Hello everyone, I'm Steve Savant, syndicated financial columnist and money color commentator. On today's show, the proven strategies to help fund college, part 3 of our series on college funding with Brock Jolly, the college funding coach. Welcome to the segment, Brock.
Great to be back. Thanks, Steve.
Boy, I want to go through this because we got quite a list today. I want you to kind of frame out for a second. There's no silver bullet. Tell me what you mean by that.
Sure. So, the key is for all these families, and we do these workshops around the country, and we get families that say, well, which strategy should I do? Which product should I buy? Should I do a 529 plan? Should I do a prepaid? The key is there's no silver bullet. There's no one size fits all. It's really about strategy, not about product.
Well, let's go through your strategy because we have and this is a list. I mean, people don't understand what's out in the market.
That's right.
And this is a huge list.
Yeah, lots of different ways to do it. I mean, we hear from families, and I say all the time, there are advantages and disadvantages to every single product out there. UGMAs or UTMAs, these are custodial accounts for the benefit of the child. Lots of flexibility, but the thing that always catches parents, as an example, is what happens to that money when your child turns 18? It's their money. They can take that money and they can, jump on a Harley Davidson and, cruise out to California, start a rock and roll band, whatever they want to do.
That would be me.
Yeah, right? So think, loans, grants, scholarships, educational savings bonds, Coverdells. We see families all the time. They say, look, I can just borrow against my retirement plan. It's super easy. One of my big convictions, one of my missions in life is to help families not make decisions because they're easy. It is super easy, but you're borrowing the money, you're paying it back with interest, you're paying it back with after-tax dollars. There's lots of things that oftentimes, as Paul Harvey said, you don't know the rest of the story. Borrowing against your real estate, right? Advantages and disadvantages to that. Cash value life insurance, you mentioned that earlier on. Lots of strategies there. The post 9/11 GI Bill, reserve officer training programs, things like that. The new kid on the block that's not so new anymore, about 20 years in at this point, Section 529 plans. Right? 2 different varieties. There are 12 states today that still have prepaid tuition plans. Advantages and disadvantages to that. They could be great as long as your child goes to an in-state public school. And then the savings variety. Again, pros and cons to every single one of these. And I think
I want to just ask you one thing, though. Brock, I mean, I'm looking at 529 plans. They're predominantly funded by mutual funds and ETFs.
That's
they
right.
just are. But people went through the 2008 market meltdown, and it not only attacked retirement, some places, like where we're filming here in Phoenix, Arizona, housing, but it also slaughtered college funding plans. And I mean, there was a 30 to 40% loss in many of the 529 plans, not because of the plan, but because they were mutual funds and ETFs. I think people are more conservative now. And when we get into later on in the couple segments from now, we need to make sure we're going to be safe. I hate to put the money into a situation like 529 and then lose it through the market.
That's right. Yeah, and use 2008 as the example. Believe it or not, kids who graduated from high school in 2008 and 2009 still were going to college that next year. So the key is, how do you create the strategy? No silver bullet. How do you create it? How do you do it? So, I think the key is create something that works whether the market is up or down or sideways.
Right. Well, I want to know what it's like. You're looking at non-deductible debt, which then turns my head and goes, well, is there deductible debt here? Is there?
Right. So, are you carrying a lot of non-deductible debt? We had a family a few years ago, great shape for retirement. I mean, I think their number was they were putting over $40,000 a year towards retirement.
Wow.
But they had about $25,000 in credit card debt. We did the math. Average interest rate on that credit card was a little over 14%. I asked what I thought was a simple question. Are you earning 14% on your money? Of course not, right? So let's look at that. And are there ways that maybe we can think about this a little bit differently to come up with the money to not only be saving for retirement, but minimize or eliminate debt and save for college? Right? Can you increase your cash flow? We're going to talk about that a little bit more. What role do taxes play? So often families, they don't understand the impact of taxes, and I'd add to that fees on all of their investments and what the impact is on the bottom line. A lot of strategies for business owners. If you've got children who work in your business, there are some tax strategies there that you may be able to employ, right? And then lastly, what if you could delay paying for college, right? Interest rates are so low right now. In a lot of cases, we've shown families ways that they can actually borrow the money in the form of student loans, have their investments still continue to earn interest at a rate that's greater than that at which they're borrowing. Now, some families, that might scare them to death. But for some families, they look at those low interest rates and think, yeah, I could probably do that.
So these are just, you have multiple strategies that could be used here, depending on how custom fit do you have to do this per person?
I think every family's unique.
Oh, they are.
Right,
so.
and it's where's your money today? Tell me about your kids. What's your risk tolerance? I mean, all these things, right?
Well, when you talk about, I love the word good investment. I never know what does that mean,
Right.
But when you're looking at this and you're trying to put yourself in a position where you're not going to experience loss of principal, this is what bothers me, right? So if I'm going to put this money aside, I don't want to lose it. So talk to me a little bit about that before we get into this list.
Yeah, so we see families all the time where they're making what they perceive to be really good decisions, right? Doing what they think is the smart thing, often with very, very good objectives. But if you layer on top of that, oh yeah, I need to send my kids to college and I need liquidity, right? I mean, I think this is a great example, right? And this is something that we use in our workshops. I just walk through with families. Okay, let's read some bullet points and you tell me if you think it's a good investment. All deposits in the account are not safe from loss of principal. That would eliminate probably half the audience. The customer can pay more than the minimum, but not less. If the customer pays less than the monthly minimum, the financial institution keeps all previous contribution. That probably eliminates another half of what's left. Each contribution made to the account is not liquid and results in less safety and increased tax liability. By this point, pretty much everybody's out. I've got two more. The money in the account earns a 0% rate of return. And last but not least, when the plan is fully funded, there's no money paid out. Well, what are we talking about, Steve? We're talking about your mortgage, and most specifically, paying extra principal against your mortgage. Very good objective, but the problem with it is you don't actually earn anything by paying extra principal, right? Yes, you pay it down more quickly, but there are other ways to do it. And a lot of times you can run into a problem if you've got all that equity stored up in your home and you need to send your child to college, right? So what we look at is, again, big picture, how do you pay for your home and also manage to be able to send your kids to college and still reach financial independence or be able to retire?
Okay, well, let's just stop for a second because I think this is a worthy, just a touch point. If I am knowing I'm going to have college education, college tuition, I may not want to start throwing extra principal payments in here. That's what I'm hearing you say.
That's absolutely right.
And so I have people that are doing the right thing. I think in their mind, it sounds right. It sounds, this is a really good strategy.
Well, they see that big interest number.
Exactly.
Right? Look at all this interest on the mortgage, and I don't want to pay interest. I don't like interest.
Then they wind up paying another interest rate, which is maybe even higher.
Yeah, then they borrow the money in student loans or something like that.
Okay, so we have children. This is probably not the way to go as far as putting money back into your house.
May not be. Again, no silver bullet on this either.
Right.
It's you got to look at it. You got to customize it for each family.
Oh yeah, qualified plans. When you're looking at a pension, most people they don't have a pension, but they probably have a 401k, they have an IRA, maybe a Roth if you're a little older and you've been doing some conversion.
Sure.
When you're looking at these qualified plan problems, we have ERISA to obey. We got to obey all the regs. So I'm not touching this till 59.5, and if I have to borrow from it, that everybody says, well, I'll just borrow from my 401k.
That's absolutely right.
I got to pay for interest, all that.
Well, and again, it's looking big picture at this. And so this is an analogy that we use, right, where we see families, where's their money? It's in their home equity and it's in their retirement plans. So let's look at it. Because a lot of times when we're talking about funding college, I call it find the money. We got to figure out where it is and what's not being used perhaps as efficiently as it could be. So let's look at a scenario. We've got a 47-year-old. They're going to work until 67. We look into our crystal ball, Steve. We see they're going to live till age 90. Okay, they've got $100,000 in what I call old money, money that's in the plan. They defer $10,000 a year. Their very benevolent employer is putting in $3,000. And in the crystal ball, we also see they're going to earn 8%. So what's that mean? That $100,000 going into the plan. At age 67, it grows to $466. The $10,000 that they defer grows to $494. The $3,000 from the employer grows to $148,000. Add it all up. We've got $1.1 million at retirement. Not bad.
No, I love it.
But what do we need to do? Now we got to make the money last. And we know, this makes financial planning really easy, we know exactly how long you're going to live. So what that means is that we can pull out $97,000 a year. Again, not too bad. But what have we not done on this money? We haven't paid taxes. And so we've got to pay federal taxes. We've got to pay state taxes. At the end of the day, when your net income comes in, you just paid $33,000 in federal and state income taxes.
I noticed that when I just was in front of a handful of millennials who were in shock that they got their first gross check and they found out, oh, I have federal and state taxes to pay on this.
Yeah, well, and the thing is, too, so many people think tax deferral is a great thing. It feels good, but on the back end, and everybody's always heard, well, you'll be in a lower tax bracket in retirement.
How come that myth has been busted now? It's just not going to be true.
I think for some families it is. But for a lot of families who are doing a good job of saving, their investments are doing well, they may not be in a lower tax bracket. So the key is, it's not saying don't put extra money, you know, don't own your home free and clear, don't save towards retirement. It's really just saying, how do you use that money as efficiently and effectively as possible and still send your kids to college?
Well, this is all important ideas, and again, I brought up the 529 plan. The only thing I have a problem with that is it's exposed to the market, and after 2008, people are gun shy.
Sure.
Listen, don't forget to watch our next segment on the resources and tricks of the trade for funding college, part 4 of our series on college funding. And keep in mind, before you go forward with any of the ideas on our show, always check with your tax consultant, legal counsel, or your financial advisor. You've been watching Steve Savant's Money, the name of the game.